Welcome to the Wealth Matters podcast, where investors come together to better understand how to build passive cash flow and create generational wealth without all the confusing mumbo-jumbo. Here's your host and co-author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Alpesh Pamar.
Welcome to Wealth Matters podcast. This is actually my first recording of this year, 2023. And we are going to talk about land. So Brent Bowers is the owner of the Land Sharks, not the Shark Tank kind, but he's an investor and coach with a focus on buying and selling vacant land. As an Army officer with over 8 years of service, Brent was spending a great deal of time away from his family, as we know, and thank you, Brent, for the service. So he knew that he needed to make some changes in order to be more present with his wife and children. So he started focusing on real estate. Welcome, Brent.
Man, I am super excited that I am your first podcast for 2023 for
Yes.
Wealth Matters. That's truly an honor. Thanks,
thank
Alpesh.
you. Yeah, so I took a break for 3 weeks. Of course, this is what we do, right? For family and all. I said, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do record for a while kids are at home. So it just worked out well.
Yeah, I love it. We all need breaks. Absolutely.
Yep.
There's seasons for hustle.
Yep. So we start with this particular question with every guest. Tell us something interesting or funny about yourself.
Oh man, interesting or funny. I'm not really that interesting or that funny. What do I say? I've been through the gutter, I think I quit. Actually, I quit in real estate in 2008. Or no, 2009. 2009 I quit. I quit because I thought, joining the military would be easier. So I started in real estate 2007, bought that first rental and got my real estate license and quit in 2009 because
a lot of people quit, by the way, at that time. So you are not the only one.
So hopefully I can relate to the audience. Like if I can do this, anybody can do
right.
this.
So you kind of mentioned about that you bought your first investment in 2007. So was that your first real estate investment?
Yeah, it was. It was the first house. It was a single family home. I got 100% financing. And then I had to get a home equity line of credit for $12,000 because the place was a big piece of junk.
Right.
Then I fixed it up and then rented it out and moved to the coast because I was going to be a real estate rock star.
Right.
And 2008 was happening for me. I went from owning a business because I had a landscape and lawn service company before I started doing real estate. So I left my business. I had a real estate license. I had a rental property. I was married. And then I had to end up moving in with my in-laws because I was not making any money. I was driving people around to find rental houses. And 2008 was rough for me.
Right.
And I was just buying into this. Oh, if people are getting out of the business that have been in it for 10 years, who am I? I'll never be able to do this. So I quit.
Right. But 2008 and 9 was rough on a lot of people. Me too. I got laid off in 2009. So I still remember that day, July. And, but it just works out, right? Because I ended up starting my own business in 2010. And I'm like, okay, I still have that IT business.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, that lawn service is still alive as well.
Yeah, see?
My dad runs it.
Yeah, that's great. But how did that that particular investment work out for you? Did it not work out at all? You lost money
tell you
what happened?
I finally sold it in 2019, almost 2 years ago now, to my fourth tenant. I had 4 different tenants over it from 2007 to 2019. And 3 out of 4 of them, I ended up having either evicted them or had to fix the house up again after they left. So I really learned how not to be a landlord, by the way. All these little tips and tricks, and don't rent to people with felonies in their background on their record. So that fourth tenant, she's like, kept trying to buy it from me. And just something told me was, help this lady out, sell it to her. And I ended up breaking even on it over all those years.
After that many years?
Yeah. And
Wow.
if I would have just waited one more year, I probably would have made
Right.
30,000. But
Yeah,
I
in
had
a
terrible timing.
hindsight, right? Yeah,
God bless it.
I sold my two properties in Dallas area in 2019. And I thought, oh, I made like 20 grand because I bought in 2016, not moving much. And if I would have sold it last year, I would have doubled.
Yeah. I wish I never would have sold it because eventually it would have
Uh,
just paid off. I
right.
mean, the mortgage was like $700 a month.
Oh,
I mean,
that's easy.
give me a
Yeah.
break. And I was what, from 2007 to 2017, I was 10 years into it. So I was actually 12 years into it. So now guess
So
what?
you are,
The
yeah,
mortgage is
the
starting to
interest
pay
goes
down.
down. Yeah. And the
So
principal, yeah,
this
correct.
is the podcast on how not and what not to do if you're a good real estate investor.
So you started with, of course, lawn business, and then you were in real estate, and then you quit. Why did you choose investing in land?
All right. So 2009, I joined the military and I did a couple deployments to Afghanistan. I lived
Oh,
in
wow.
Germany when I wasn't deployed. Well, 2012-ish on my second deployment, me and my wife ended up splitting up because I was gone in the military all the time, always gone, always training, always deployed. And that is no way for a marriage to last.
Right.
And 2013, the military pulls me out of Afghanistan. They send me to college in Melbourne, Florida, to be an Army officer. Well, I bought the house next door to the college, and I did what's called house hacking,
Oh,
where I
that's a good
had
idea.
roommates. And then I bought another house a few months later. That was also another rental. And then I had some bills I had to pay because I had bought these rentals and I needed to pay for college courses. So then I started wholesaling houses. I would go and knock on
Uh-huh.
doors that people were getting list pendants or notice of default, their pre-foreclosure, and I'd leave a sticky note and I started wholesaling houses. And I did that all the way to about 2015 when I moved to Fort Carson, Colorado, or Colorado Springs, Colorado, with my new wife, and we got married, and we were pregnant, about to have a baby, and history was repeating itself. I was preparing
Oh,
for my third combat deployment, and I was struggling in the house wholesaling, and I knew that it wasn't going to be good enough to get me out of the Army, but I wanted to now quit my W-2 job. And I heard about a guy just flipping land, and he was doing it overnight and doubling his money. And I was like, that sounds way easier than
right.
buying these stinky, dirty cat pee houses. And at this time, I was flipping them too. I was renovating them, all while
Right.
working my 13-hour-a-day Army job and going to the field every couple of weeks. So I just started mailing the tax delinquent list, people that were behind on their taxes for land. And my phone was like blowing up. And I was buying this junk land, like the non-buildable, not accessible, landlocked stuff for like $200, for $500. And I was flipping it for 5,000. And then some I was selling on seller financing, like for $400 a month.
Right. Yeah,
And
you have
that
income.
$400, yeah, that $400 a month changed my life. It broke my brain because I was like, wait a minute, that's $400 a month. I paid $500 for that. That it was a second parcel of land, $500, and I got 500 down from the buyer. I sold it on Craigslist, by the way, and I got $400 a month. And I was like, wait a minute, if I do this like 10 more times, that's going to cover my expenses,
Yeah.
and I can
Right.
get out of the military. This is my answer. So I just kept doing it, and I would like assign my contract on a couple. I would buy and flip some, and then the majority I would sell or finance. And in 9 months, I was hitting $9,000 a month in payments coming in.
Oh, that's awesome. And so when did you leave military?
So I left the military in 2018.
Oh, nice. Nice. So now that you are one of those guys who has done rentals to house hacking to land investing, can you compare investing in land versus single family rentals?
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely compare it. Let me tell you this, land, it doesn't give you any tax write-offs. So I could do a 1031 tax exchange into
Right.
land or out of it.
Right.
However, my income that I get for land, the IRS gives me a special code where we do a worksheet where we only pay taxes on what we collect on the payments. But here's the thing, like that's like they're taxing me on that as far as ordinary income. So it's worse than capital gains. So
Right.
I take that money. I usually take like 1/4 of 25% of that money, and I put it into buildings like apartment complexes.
Right.
We'll syndicate it, or
That's
I
a
bought.
good idea. I was going
Yeah.
depreciation. Yeah.
Yeah, depreciation. There you go. And
Yep.
cost segregation. I
Yep.
bought my
Huge.
office building. And basically I talked to my CPA around, I don't know, September, and I say, hey, what's my tax bill? And that tells me how much real estate I got to go out and
Right.
buy
Yep. That's what
that I
I
pay
did in
no
October.
taxes. And the IRS writes these rules for us. Like
Yes.
I'm not scamming anybody.
No.
I'm doing exactly the way they wrote it for us. So so I do invest in buildings and houses, not a lot of houses. We bought like a vacation home we were talking about before we
Right. Short-term
recorded this.
rental. Yeah.
So that was in 2019, right before we knew what COVID was. I took $65,000 out of my bank account, and we put a down payment on this house. And then the next month COVID happened. I was like, oh gosh,
Ah,
we were getting bookings like crazy. I was like, I
right.
am a genius. I am
Yep.
so smart. And then
Yeah.
they all canceled.
Yeah.
So, but land compared to houses, to answer your question, it's easier. It's so much simpler for land. And my tenants, oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say my buyers for my land, they never call
Right.
unless they want to pay extra. That's it.
Yeah, because you don't have the 3 T's, right? Tenant, termite, and toilets
Yeah,
to deal with.
absolutely. That's right. Yeah.
So, and you mentioned about, because I do syndication and I do it because of the same reason, because I want to scale up as well as I want to get that cost seg, the bonus depreciation, right?
Yeah.
How do you scale up investing in land? Similar to rentals, right? Where we can buy apartment homes, mobile
Yeah.
home parks, and RV parks.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I've scaled it, and I'll tell you we've scaled up and I've scaled down. I'm kind of getting that sweet spot where I don't need too big of a team, but I know that if I send out 855 letters right now, 855 actual letters, it's a specific offer letter. And if anybody wants that, I can give it to you. Go to the landsharks.com/LOL, land offer letter is what I call it.
Okay.
So that's what I send out. And basically they're at like about 50 cents on the dollar. So if your land's worth $100,000 an acre, you're going to get an offer from me for like $49,856 per acre. Because I'm not buying the asset unless I'm getting at least 50
Right.
cents on the dollar. Now, some areas are a little different. If I'm going to assign the contract, I'm willing to pay a lot more because it's not my money going into the deal
Correct.
or a lender's money. But how do you scale that? So 855 gets me one deal that makes me about $10,000 net profit. So, okay, let's say I want to make 20,000 next month. Well, I need to send about 1,600 of those. Let's say I want to make 30,000, that's 2,400. And now these are very specific offers. So it takes a little work to do that. But now we hired someone to help us, a data analyst that I just did a couple of videos, and I teach my land sharks the same thing.
Right.
Here's what I'm looking for. Here's how to pick the market. So how do we pick a market? Let's go to Zillow or let's go to Redfin and click on sold. And I want to see what's been happening in the last 30 days. And let's just pick like, I don't know, Orlando, Florida. All right, let's look in Orlando. I'm not seeing any patterns. All right, let's scroll over a little bit. Oh, there's a cluster. So it's the cluster of solds, like the yellow dots on Zillow. And once I find that cluster, like when we were shooting a bullseye at target, the red dot, Redfin is red dots, Zillow is yellow dots. But once I find that cluster pattern, I'm going to click on each one of those and see, what price it sold for, how big it is, how many square foot or acres. And then one more thing, I'm going to copy and paste who it was listed by. That's the listing agent. And who it was bought by. That's usually the buyer's agent. And if it's not a listed by or bought by, it means that it didn't go on the MLS more than likely.
Yeah.
So those are the three things I'm interested in. And once I know that, I know the in-demand areas. I also know the in-demand parcel size. And I can go to PropStream, draw that area on a map. Hey, Lake Avenue, Eagle Avenue, 1st Street, 5th Street. Draw that and only mail that area for that specific size. Let's just say it was 10,000 square foot parcels. and do that for each size. So now today I'm going to mail 10,000 square foot. Tomorrow I'm going to mail a 15,000 square foot. The next day I'm going to mail the half acre. And you can do that so on and so on. And how to scale it. There's amazing people all over this world that work directly from their computer. You do a video, and show them how to do it. Virtual assistants, they're the best thing ever. And some people you find the people that like to do that kind of stuff, and you do what you do best, and hire someone to help you with the rest.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Can you take us through your underwriting process?
Yeah. Like, do I understand so underwriting, say I'm looking at a piece of land, would I want to buy it? Like, what are the things I'm looking for?
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, when I'm underwriting a deal, people ask me all the time, what parcels of land do you not buy? Well, I don't buy anything with environmental issues.
Okay.
And I don't buy anything industrial because they sometimes have environmental issues. I don't buy a lot of commercial, few and far between. I'm really going for the residential stuff, the stuff that's easy to comp. And your audience is probably thinking, Brent, land is really hard to comp because it's all over the place. Well, I just ran you through my Zillow Redfin example. The stuff that I don't understand or it's hard to comp, I'm probably not going to buy in that area. And if I do, it's going to be like a no-brainer offer price. Like if I go into it with both eyes closed, I could still make money because I got it for cheap enough. So the underwriting process is we want to make at least $10,000 if we're going to buy it. And if we're going to sign the contract, we want to make at least $5,000. And when I say sign the contract, I get it under contract. I look on like batch leads and I see the cash transactions, the people that are buying land cash and LLCs to build houses or whatever. I'm just going to basically sell them my contract for a little bit more. So that's really my underwriting process. I want to get it at a discount and sell it for a little bit more. But my third way to dispo it, which I love the most, which I already talked about, that $400 a month, is the seller financing game. Generally, I want to 3x my money. So if I'm looking at a piece of land and it's worth $30,000, I generally want to get it for about $10,000. And I'm going to sell it on seller financing. That way I can 3x my money. That's before we charge interest. That's kind of a no-brainer. So now in a perfect world, I'm going to sell it for $10,000 down and $500 a month at 12% interest. And
so you have no risk in the game.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great. And do you perform any kind of due diligence or on the land side, you don't have to once you are under contract?
Absolutely. No, we perform all kinds of due diligence. I even offer my due diligence checklist for anybody that wants it, thelandsharks.com/DD as in due diligence. We check to see if there's roads going through the land. Is it accessible? Is there
ingress, out, egress?
There you go. Legal ingress, egress, access. That's huge.
That's very important.
Is it wetlands? I'm looking at a piece of land right now. If it passes the perk test, which I got to text a realtor as soon as I hang up with you guys.
Yeah, I went through that perk test a couple of years ago because we bought a land to build a house. So
there you go. If it passes, I've got a home run. I've got a piece of land where we got it under contract for about $100,000. It should sell for around $350,000 if it passes the perk test. If it doesn't, it's probably only worth about what I've got it under contract for, or maybe a little more. And I'm not going to buy it, or I'm going to call the seller and be like, "Look, I'm going to have to cancel this contract because it won't perk. I could pay like $20,000 for this."
I see. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, that's interesting. And what other due diligence items do you do other than perk test?
Yeah, environmental study. Is it in a wetlands area? Looking at the 100-year floodplains. We're going to call the electric company, even if there's no electric, because you want to know, is there any unpaid bills? Because title insurance companies miss these things if they're not recorded. I bought a piece of land back in 2016, and there was like a $3,600 water bill. And I was like, what are you talking about? There's no water on this lot. There was a water tap that they charged $11 a month. And I inherited that, even though I bought it through a title insurance company. I had the title insurance. I had title insurance policy. They totally missed it. And you think they paid? Nope.
No, the title
No.
company didn't pay.
Oh
Oh,
no, I had
wow.
title issues multiple times and the title insurance
Wow.
company did not pay. So I'm learning each one of these things on my due diligence checklist that I
Right.
just offered have been things that have bit me in the butt. Check for IRS tax liens.
Oh, yes, that's a very important tax liens.
Jeez. I once got a $157,000 IRS tax
Oh
lien. I
my
had to
God.
wait. I had to wait 1 year to buy the land so
Right.
it could fall off.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that is interesting. Thank you so much for sharing all the golden nuggets. Let's talk about some of the mistakes. What are some of the mistakes you have made with your investments so far?
I just told you all those things on my due diligence checklist. So one time, so when I was an Army officer, I was the executive officer for a forward support company for an infantry battalion. And I was like working crazy hours, but I was so addicted to this land game, and I was doing really well. I think I made like $200,000 in flipping land in about 6 months' time,
Oh,
and
wow.
my
That's
foot was on the
huge.
outside of the door. But here's the thing. Here's the problem with that. I got cocky. I got very arrogant. And I was like, I can make money on any piece of land. I started just sending people checks. And
Oh,
they would send me the quit claim deed, which I don't
right.
recommend getting a quit
Nope.
claim deed.
No.
Buy it through a title insurance
Yes.
company. Even if you get the land for free, still, which by the way, I've gotten multiple parcels for free. You still want to do title research. I got one that was it was a treasurer's deed. So basically they bought it with back taxes and they foreclosed and took it from the owner. And that was what's called the treasurer's deed. So the title was clouded for 9 years. And then another
Oh,
one I bought, it was a huge crater in the ground. I thought it was worth 35,000 and I paid 3,500. I was like, this is a no-brainer. Once again, well, I sold it for 3,500 for like $150 a month.
nice. What has been your best deal so far?
You know, there's so many of them. It's hard to remember. I'll talk about the one I just did this week.
Okay.
We just bought one. So we actually found this lead on Craigslist. And if you don't mind, I'm going to close this window because my kids are playing right outside of it. And I'm sure it's being loud. Apologies.
That's good.
So we found this lead on Craigslist. Actually, it was a Craigslist lead. And the lady said, look, I'll sell you the land. We were going through title and we find out there's a mobile home on it. Well, we're under contract for 40,000.
Oh, wow.
We thought the land was worth 90,000. And title said, no, there's a mobile home on it. So we called the seller. She goes, yeah, there is. And we're like, okay, is there anybody living in it? She goes, yeah, my son lives in there.
You can take it.
Great. Can we talk to him? So find out that he wants to buy the land and the mobile home, but he doesn't have 40 grand. But he can pay almost $900 a month in payments, and he sends us check stubs. Well, it took us about a year to get this deal closed, and then, God bless her soul, her husband dies. So we then had to go through a probate process after we fixed title issues because they had bought it some weird way. And we're still under contract for 40,000. And now the property's worth like 140 because of the mobile home, and it's in pretty decent shape. So we arranged with the son. He's going to give us 5,000 down and 946 a month. Well, I needed to close it, and I wasn't sure when it was going to close, so I bought some other properties. So I called mother-in-law. I said, "Hey, do you want to loan me 40 grand?" And she said, "Sure, I'll loan it." I said, "How fast do you want to be paid back?" She said, "Like 5 years." And so we're giving her 9% interest on 40,000, and our buyer is paying us 9% interest on 80,000. I'm sorry, 90,000. And he gave a
Wow.
$5,000 down payment. So now he only has an $85,000 loan. So we're going to get mother-in-law paid back in 5 years. And her payment is about $830 a month.
Nice.
And we're receiving $946 a month from our buyer. Well, we charge a $20 a month note service fee, and his loan is for 13 years at 9%. So it works out to $946 a month. And that leaves us $115 a month for the next 5 years. So if you do the math, we already got 5,000 down yesterday, I believe it came in. And then we're getting the 946 a month minus what I pay mother-in-law. She'll be paid off in 5 years. So that 115 a month for 60 months, that comes up like $6 grand.
Right.
And then when mom's paid off, we're going to keep that $946 a month for
Right.
another 8 years or 96 payments. That's like $101,000 net profit, no money out of my
That's
pocket
crazy.
whatsoever. And we've done like hundreds of these.
Well, that's amazing. Now, of course, I heard all the great deals. What has been your worst deal so far, and what did you learn from it?
So I'm still in it. We actually bought a piece of land for $1.2 million.
Oh, wow.
And um, it's entitled for 34 townhomes right in the middle of Colorado Springs. And it's just sitting. I have a couple partners and they're not quite sure what they want to do. They want to build houses. I'm telling them we're too late. It's actually
Yes.
zoned commercial. And I have some big plans with it. And it's actually in a hub zone, actually. And that's a government hub zone. Basically, the SBA has deemed it for a hub
Right.
zone. So really what it should be built there is probably like retail or a store on the first floor. The second floor, probably like office space. And the
I
third
see.
floor and the fourth floor should probably be housing.
Ah,
So I'm trying to talk my partner into that. And I shouldn't say it's the worst deal. I can't complain. But it's been a little bit of a struggle. We've owned it for like a year now, and we haven't done anything with it. It's sitting right next to a golf course. It's got a 6-lane highway in front of it.
nice.
And $1.2 million, and it's all of our own cash into it. So my cash is sitting in this thing. And I'm like,
Right.
let's do something. I
Correct.
was thinking, even if we seller financed it for $1.2 million at 12% to someone, put a huge billboard, we'll finance, do whatever you want with the land.
Right.
We could be collecting like $9,000 a month.
Correct.
But it's just
Oh.
sitting there. So that's my
Yeah.
worst deal. I hate for stuff to sit.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Which markets are you focused on and why?
Right now, I'm really kind of heavily focused in Florida because I live here. I've recently moved from Colorado Springs about a year and a half ago. I'm still in Colorado, still in Arizona, a couple deals in Pennsylvania and Indiana. And I shouldn't say I went into Indiana or Pennsylvania on purpose. Just deals come to you. When people find out you buy land, they just kind of show up. So I'm doing one right now. I'm looking at my board. Got 18 parcels in Hawaii, one in Tennessee,
Nice.
one in Miami. I'm really trying to get. That one's been tough, but we're all kind of all over the place. I'm not micro focused. When I was in the house flipping business, I was only in one city. And that is a hard business to do virtually, by the way.
No, house flipping is different. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Brent. This was great. Are you ready for fire round?
Fired up.
Okay. Would you be changing any business or investment strategy because of inflation or recession?
Yes. I've got 2 more houses to unload in my house flipping business, and the switch is being turned off on that just because of the sheer fact that I'm doing it virtually, and there's so much more money in land.
Right. Favorite real estate or finance or any other related book?
I love The Wealthy Gardener. That's my favorite real estate book.
Wealthy Gardener. Okay. I have not read that one. Any tool or website you recommend or you cannot live without?
Oh man, I would say batchleadsbrent.com. That is where I find my cash buyers for any parcel of land or houses. I go on there and figure out where they're at, and I get their phone numbers and their emails, and it could be for LLPs or LLCs. So it's amazing. You can see where the money's at too, really quickly.
Right. Yeah. Any advice for beginner investors?
You know what? Pick something, whether it be mobile home parks or land or houses, and stick to it, and do not sway. And you do something every single day, money-making activity, that action, talking to sellers, talking to buyers. Everything else is noise. You need to focus on the exact, straight, like narrow, not narrow, but laser vision.
Yes.
Exactly, money-making things, talking to sellers, talking to buyers.
That makes sense. How do you give back?
What's that?
How do you give back?
How do I give back? So I teach a lot of people. I share a lot of this stuff on TikTok.
Yeah.
Do
you dance well?
I don't dance at all. I am terrible. That's my wife. She gets mad at me about it. So there's so many ways to give back. This was really cool. We were at this church coffee shop the day before Christmas, and I love going to this little coffee shop. And this lady comes out crying. She's like, "What's wrong?" She goes, "I came here to get a gift for my grandson, and they're out." And like, it's giving me goosebumps, like thinking about it. And we do things like this all the time because God has blessed us so much, and you've got to give back. Like, it says, you must tithe. Anyhow, so we asked her, I was like, "Well, what's your address? I'll bring you a present tonight." And she gave me her address, and she told me about her grandson. And I said, "Are there any other kids in the neighborhood that need anything?" And she gave me a whole list. And we just got to play Santa Claus. And that did more for me than her, because it just made me feel so good. And I brought my kids along so they can see what it's like. So we bought a couple bicycles for the neighborhood boys, and it was so good. Like, and just doing things like that, that's contribution. I think I don't know, that sat with me for a week. And just little random acts of kindness. She doesn't know my name, and we like doing it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. How can my listeners reach out to you?
I mentioned TikTok. I'm sharing a lot of like what I'm doing with land every day on there. Brent L. Bowers, L is in Lima. Brent L. Bowers 1 is my TikTok handle. Probably the easiest way.
Thank you so much, Brent, for your time.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Matters podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes so others can enjoy the show too. Have a great week and happy investing!